So the exhibit is, and I apologize up front if I mispronounce, the exhibit is gwáyoʼ Gayogo, Cayuga People Returned, and it focuses on the Gayogo, also known as the Cayuga People, their experiences with diaspora in the wake of the American Revolution, and a series of fraudulent treaties with New York State that basically dispossessed them of their reservation, forcing them to go to Western New York, Canada, Oklahoma, but also their return back to their homelands in the late 20th century. I mean, many people never left, so some Cayuga people have always been here. There's always been a connection back to that homeland, but they started to return in greater numbers towards the end of the 20th century, and have been moving back more significantly in the past decade or so. So this exhibit kind of celebrates their return, talks about the historical aspect and celebrates the return, and it's going to be both at the Cayuga Museum and here at the Schweinfurth. And it's going to include contemporary artwork by Cayuga and other Haudenosaunee artists who are all in conversation with each other, talking about this pivotal moment in Cayuga history of their return. And so the Cayuga Museum will also have a lot more of the historical aspects, like the copies of some of the fraudulent treaties that resulted in their dispossession. The Hardenberg journals from the Clinton-Sullivan campaign, which was a campaign in the American Revolution where George Washington basically sent several branches of his army up through Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca territories to literally burn out every village and all their cornfields and all their like orchards. And several of the soldiers kept journals and literally said, this village, we burned X number of acres of corn and X number of acres of peach trees and X number of houses. And so it was forced them in one of the coldest winters on record to all kind of move to Western New York, to Fort Niagara, to the safety of the British.
The safety of the British, wow. I feel like
Well, I mean, some of them were neutral. Obviously, this is going to tank the neutrality. The Oneidas were technically friends of the Americans, so it kind of caused some friction there when you're friends, and somebody's burning your villages. Well, it's kind of a problem. But I mean, not as many of the Oneida villages ended up getting torched, but there were a couple that kind of in the wake just. So the actual what happened during the Revolution with Clinton-Sullivan, fraudulent treaties after the American Revolution with New York State, and they were fraudulent because the federal government had passed laws saying only the federal government can negotiate treaties, and New York basically said, but we are anyway, because we're the Empire State.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? So they did, and the federal government never ratified the treaty, so they're technically illegal treaties, which is why things went to court, because a little bit fraudulent there, yeah. Well, one of the reasons is that we want to develop a relationship, an allyship with the Cayuga Nation. So this gives us an opportunity to start building that relationship. And the same thing with the Cayuga Museum next door. They've been trying to build a relationship with the Cayugas and with the Haudenosaunee peoples for a while now. So working with them on this exhibit actually gives us that opportunity to lay that groundwork and start to develop an actual relationship with them. So, but also it's a history that's really not known. And even the current events are really not known, right? There may be people here who know Cayugas are returning, but what do they know? What do they really know about that? So it kind of gives Cayuga people and Haudenosaunee people a space in their traditional territories to tell that story. Do they need the Schweinfurth? No, because there's actually a lot of Haudenosaunee galleries like Scannell out in Liverpool. It is a Haudenosaunee space. They could actually do this in a comfortable space without having to be kind of mediated by a non-native institution. But it gives an opportunity to start developing that dialogue and developing those relationships. So it's kind of an opportunity that way. So the exhibit will run from the end of May through September 19th, May 30th through September 19th. And over the course of that time, we will be hosting a series of events related to the exhibit. we want people to come in and see the exhibits both in the Cayuga Museum and in the Schweinfurth. They're going to be interconnected. And it won't matter whether you start here and go there or go start there and come over here, but they're going to be interconnected so that people will learn a little bit more from each site. But on top of that, on June 6th, we're going to have a kind of a celebratory festival, an opening that'll be a day-long opening. Cayuga Elder will open the day with the gwáyoʼ, which is the Thanksgiving address. And then we will have, like, the smoke dancers will be here. There'll be art demonstrations, make and take crafts for kids, performances by Haudenosaunee musicians, hopefully a Haudenosaunee storyteller. We have some, Rick Lazor and Hazel Paulus will be coming from the Onondaga Nation with boiled cornbread and corn soup, strawberry drink, scones, which will all be free samples for the public so that they can actually get a taste of what Haudenosaunee food is like. And that'll be all day on Saturday, June 6th. June 7th, we're partnering with the Share Farm, which is one of the areas where the Cayugas have returned. And the Share Farm is located in Springport on Truesdale Road. And every year they have an annual picnic that's open to the public so that they can try and meet their neighbors. That picnic is June 7th, and we're kind of partnering with the Share Farm to market that and to help them kind of organize this year a little bit. They're doing the primary organizing. We're just kind of, as they need us to kind of help with anything, we're available to them.
Sure.
So if they need an extra pair of hands for something, there we are. We're hopefully going to have some Haudenosaunee artists doing some workshops here over the course of the summer, art workshops. Have some artist talks. The curator will be doing a talk. June 10th, we have a history talk. Stephen Henhock, who, again, his first language is Cayuga. He's a Cayuga historian and title holder, and he works at Cornell teaching the Cayuga language. He's going to come up here with Professor Kurt Jordan and Professor Whitley, and they're going to do a panel talk on the history related to Clinton Sullivan and the Cayuga Ferry Treaty, and that'll be June 10th, which is, I think, a Wednesday, and it's in the evening at the Cayuga Museum. Hoping to have some performances, like on First Fridays, having Haudenosaunee musicians come in on some of the First Fridays and do some performances for us. So just keeping that momentum going all summer long to bring people in to learn more, to not just see Haudenosaunee and Cayuga people as people from the past, but as people who are today in the present, right? And so that they can see, yeah, hey, they dress just like I do, right? They're just everyday people. They just happen to have a slightly different culture and a slightly different history.